It's Friday night. It's 11 o'clock. I am not scratching my nose this week, Will. So I just want you to know that for once I've kicked that habit. I think that says that I had a habit with my nose that I didn't have. I'm just naturally this excited to talk about comics and talk with about 3 projects this week. But first, Will. We know we're what, 3 weeks into a new job? 2 weeks? How you feeling? You getting more comfortable?
A little bit, yeah. It's a big change, but everybody tells me I'm gonna like it, and I'm at the point where I think I could probably like it, but I'm still so overwhelmed that I'm like, okay, I trust that you say this, and it's gonna be okay. Trust the process.
I think you're supposed to drown in the second and third week, but as long as the water feels the right temperature,
it's all good.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Well, my week has been getting used to the because I can kind of do my own schedule. So during the summer, I sleep more till it's like 9 o'clock, and now I'm back to that 6:30, 7 a.m. getting up for school time. So if I fall asleep during the show, it is nothing other than me dealing with new school schedules. I promise it has nothing to do with William, Jack, or Tyler, who are here to talk about their projects. Now, what we usually do on Explain Yourself is a little 30-second elevator pitch for the project. And then we're going to go do a deep dive. Now, in my conversation with Tyler James, he let me know that he was going to kind of nap up and stay up a little bit later. So, Tyler, we're going to let you do your deep dive first, just in case we hit that time where you've got to say goodnight. So why don't we do your elevator pitch first as well for the book that you are publishing, A Fistful of Pain?
Yeah, so this is a book that features dragons, sibling rivalry, and kung fu vengeance. It is written by indie comic sort of super scribe Ryan K. Lindsay, and he's partnering up with his longtime convention table mate Louis Joyce, who is also Australian, and it's just a really cool book. It's about 2 sisters that grew up bickering like 6 sisters do, fighting over everything from the little things sisters fight over to the family dragon. Eventually, that rivalry results in one of the sisters betraying the other and betraying the family and breaking their code and stealing the dragon for her own evil, criminal, like bad things to do. And this is the ultimate retribution / comeuppance, where the 2 sisters face off in a sort of kung fu fight for the ages on a yacht, and dragons are involved, and it's pretty darn cool. I'm editing it and publishing it under Comics Drive. It's a self-contained original one-shot, and it's doing great on Kickstarter, and we're excited to have it up there for another 8 days or so.
Awesome. So, Jack, Legends of the Realm. Any dragons in Legends of the Realm that we need to be worried about?
As of yet, not so far. This is the second official issue for Legends of the Realm, but like the name suggests, it is epic fantasy just as you want it. This issue, we've got our main character, Camridian. He is traveling throughout the kingdom he's just been appointed to, trying to discover new magics, new mysteries. Normally, he goes to special places. This time the magic has come to him with a mysterious stone woman over a bridge demanding a toll that he cannot pay. And in their fighting, they're trying to figure out, are we friends? Are we enemies? And even if we're friends, do I still have to kill you?
Nice. Okay, William, if there's not a dragon somewhere in Baby Barbarian, we're going to have some issues. There has to be somewhere, right?
No, there's no dragon.
Okay, all right.
Well, there's a hawk drake. There's a hawk drake. So what in Baby Barbarian is like a tween gonzo fantasy comic, and it's meant for parents and kids, or adults and little people to read together. And the premise is a barbarian family and like a faux Nordic / pan Nordic culture, and then somebody comes to their village with a wagon that is full of magical items, and one of them is the player's throne, and whoever sits in it will be transported off to a land of fun and games. And of course, one of our plucky protagonists ends up sitting in it and is sent off to Castle Slapdash. So and so the first comic was launched last year. That was as well with Tyler. I'm a member of Tyler's group over here, and they were very helpful with that. And so how this takes, right? It took a year later to get the second one going, but this wraps up the second story where the family has actually been in the castle at the end of the first one, and they've arrived there, and now they have to reunite, find a way to defeat all these tricks and traps, and then escape. And it's really just meant to be very lighthearted and family friendly, and something that wholesome. I mean, can I say that on this show? Wholesome?
Yes, we do allow curse words, and we do allow nice, wholesome family entertainment as well.
Curse word? Okay.
Good. Yeah, we kind of run the gamut, A to Z. We go baby books to pornography if it comes up. So yes, you're allowed.
Awesome.
So let's get into one thing. So I'm not a publisher, Tyler. You're a publisher. I'm going to put out a scenario that this is the way I expect it to be. Ryan K. Lindsay sends you an email, and it says, I have an idea for. So my expectation is you read that, you reply, yes, we'll do it. And then you go back to his email to find out what the pitch is. Is that how it works with Ryan?
The automatic green light. Yeah. I mean, he's, Ryan was involved in the very first project that I launched on Kickstarter. So the nice thing about being in this world, and the nice thing about being a publisher with, like Jack, a small kid at home, is that you got we have a limited amount of bandwidth. And so the fact that the people that I've worked with in the past, and people that I continue to see doing good work, people that I'm fans of myself, since I can say I have to say no to 95% of everything that comes my way because of bandwidth and trying to find the right fit for the audience that we already have, and books that I think that publishing under the Comics Tribe imprint can help move the needle a little bit. It's tough. We have a low acceptance rate, but if we've worked together in the past, if we've just gone to Kickstarter battle together before, it does make it pretty easy. But I think Ryan also, he's gotten pretty good because over the years, he's sent me a number of ideas, and a number of them actually found homes in other places, but not all necessarily the kind of vibe that would be a Comics Tribe book, or that I think the audience would just totally jump over. But I also say working with Ryan, he's in some ways helped us sort of reorient what could a Comics Tribe book could be. He pushes some envelopes and things like this. And so like this latest book, it's on track to be our most funded, most backed comic book Kickstarter. And it is nothing like when we started, I started a decade ago, we launched with 3 superhero high concept twist books. And now we don't really do much of that, or haven't done much of that in a long time. And this is also something completely different. So I think that's a testament to what Ryan has been able to achieve, and the respect that he has in the industry. And then also we've, with our audience, just, they kind of give us a long leash, in terms of what we put out.
If you can share the page with us, I'll put it up on the screen, and then Will and I are going to try to embarrass you for a second.
Yeah.
We kind of said this a little bit in the backstage. Will and I wouldn't know each other. Will and I wouldn't have I probably wouldn't still be doing comics, wouldn't still be able to do comics if it wasn't for you putting the work in, learning, showing how things work and sharing information with us. And I want to, before we go any further, say thank you so much for what you do to me, Kevin Joseph specifically, and then all of comics in general. It is a godsend to have people like you, Russell Nolte, Charlie Stickney, the people that are showing how it works and not hoarding the secrets. And I just really want to embarrass you, because almost nothing that I've done in the last 3 years would exist without you helping and showing the way.
Well, I appreciate you that, man. You said you weren't going to embarrass me. No.
I wanted to sideswipe you.
Yeah. No, it has been just an absolute joy to do this. You know, like for as long as I can remember, I've been like making comics or creating stuff, and then also talking about the process of making it. And so, like, you know, to be here, you know, years later, and this is kind of like somehow been able to put together a job and a living where all I do is work on my projects or work with creators like you guys on trying to make your projects a little bit better. It's great. It's a great thing. And so, you know, cheers to all of you. And it's you know, a testament to like how good the quality of the people that I've been able to meet in this community, and the fact that, you know, after several years, like, comics is like clearly like #1 in terms of success rate on Kickstarter. It's because so many creators like yourselves do it the right way, you know, and so it's a great community to be a part of.
So Joey Galvez said, "Look at those, the gorgeous colors on that book." Is the artist doing the colors, or do you have a colorist with this group?
Yeah, so this is Louis Joyce. We have some great pinups and some cool variants from some artists that Ryan and Louis have worked with in the past. But in terms of for the interiors, that is Louis, and he's doing some cool stuff with color palettes and things like that to represent the different timelines and time frames in the book. Yeah, he's something else. And just it's a book that, like, again, doesn't look like anything that we've published before in Comics Tribe. And one of the things that I'm so excited about is that we're publishing this in like a large European style oversized format. And I think you're going to need it, because Louis goes crazy on some of the panel. Like, there's a page with like 20 plus panels on it of like kung fu action and just playing with like some just gorgeous double page spreads and things. So yeah, it's a cool looking book, and definitely going to be visually distinct. And then, you know, one of the things that is sort of my kink over the past couple of years has been, okay, let's crank the cover or the format to 11, so that like, even if you don't even know what the high concept is yet, like, you've got to ask about the book.
Right.
That's where the sort of die cut foil enhanced hardcover comes in. So, you know, you see a mock-up here. We weren't able to get the full, you know, dummy book made up to really show it off. But the concept here is that the dragon's eyes will be cut out, like that'll be a die cut. And so you're like looking through, and his pupils are the warring sisters. And then all of the flames are going to be like a gold foil enhancement there. So yeah, really trying to push the hardcover here. The hardcover, you know, it's a premium book. It's premium price, but we also are putting extra pages in the hardcover as well, to try to give people justify people upgrading for the big version. We also do have some really great, you know, two soft cover versions as well.
Well, I remember the She hardcover being just absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to assume it's going to be at least that quality, if not even nicer.
Yeah, that was the first time we experimented with the old die cut hardcover, and we've actually have if anybody missed them and you're dying to add some really cool hardcovers in there is a pledge that gives you all 3 of the the Comics Tribe die cut hardcovers, which were all successfully kickstarted here. So that would be She, which was also by Ryan K. Lindsay, and then the Wailing Blade collection with that book by Rich Douek and Joe Mulvey.
Right. If you're dying for some Ryan, you can.
Can't believe you said that, man.
I can't believe I got it in. I thought all six of us were going to jump on that one. But, so when I read Ryan's work, and I've said this to him, by email because he's in Australia and he cannot hear me, but I feel intoxicated about 4 pages into his work. There is something that he does, and I'm reminded of the first short that I read was by the same artist. It was the prime minister who disappears. True story. An Australian prime minister went out for a swim and disappeared, which is I think the greatest Australian story I've ever heard. And this story is just all these crazy conspiracy theories of what might have happened, and it's both the writer and the artist on it. But it's like 6 pages, and I put it down and I was kind of like dizzy in the best way possible. And Ryan's work does this weird thing in my head, and I don't know what the magic like satanic magic. I don't know if it's chaos magic, but I can't wait to get in this because I just love the work. And he has this thing where every artist he works with is the best artist in the world, and he works with about 4 different artists. So how does he do that?
Yeah, that is a good question, and that's his own special kind of kung fu. He's really like Ryan's discipline, I think, is the hardest thing in the world, where he is able to come up with these super epic high concepts in these like rich, like lived in worlds. And then he's able to tell a story that might only be, 20 pages or 10 pages or 6 pages or 50 plus pages like this one is. Right. And is okay with that. Like, so I think so many creators and I myself am always this is like, when I come up with an idea, it's like, oh, well, that'll take 10 issues and then it might get good, right?
Right.
And Ryan is able to sort of like just craft these wholly lived in worlds and then tell a really like gutting story in those pages, and then he's okay leaving it and going on to something else. And it's the smart, like from a creator's perspective, it's the smartest thing that you can possibly do in some cases, because it gets him to actually get your artist to say yes. Right. And then it also gets them like books to get published, printed out into the world, and the credits. And so like, where you look at, creators that are trying to, still trying to get those miniseries picked up or whatever. And Ryan's just, I've got a half dozen one shots and a couple of, 3 issues and here and there. And he's just been so prolific. And I think that's a part of it, but it's a special gift to be able to think really, really big and then tell like a dynamic story and get in and get out and leave people feel like wanting more and moved. Right. And, the other thing that I'll say about Ryan's work, I know his ears are probably ringing right now. middle of the day in Australia, and he's like, but the dude's his writing is poetry in his, and so like for someone like me that I'm like, okay, let's market this thing. One of the things I like to do is like, okay, what are sort of our log lines and what are our cool like sayings and taglines, or what are like marketing things. And I, just had a blast going through this script and pulling out just like these just zingers of gutting lines that I could then just use in marketing images, like some of the ones that you see here. Time to go to war. Yeah. The opening line. My name is Shin, and I have only one purpose: sororicide. And I'm like, I had never heard the word sororicide before, but you know exactly what it is. And it's just like, yeah, he's got a gift. He's got a gift for that. And there's always like a moment or two in the scripts where you're like, wow, like he just said something that like, you know, some like you almost want to like, did the great poets say that at some point? Or
Right.
you want to look it up, but then you could also like, if you want to hit the mute button and rip all Ryan's words away, the art is always memorable and worth really diving into. And so, you know, when it comes together, that's sort of like the brilliant thing. And I think when Ryan sent this over to me the first time, and he sort of asked what I thought, like the one thing where like sometimes Ryan's work doesn't like, or where I say like it's not always a Comics Tribe book or whatever. Sometimes like I find like, you know what, like Ryan, like some of the stuff, like you're giving me the reader too much credit. Like that there are some connections that I actually want to see in this book, and
Right.
some moments that I want to spend time with. So like my only real editing capacity in this was just calling out a couple of beats that sort of were left on the cutting room floor. And I think that's another thing that Ryan's really good at is like, you know, not like killing the babies down to just what you need, and like not taking too long and letting the audience fill in the gaps. But I think there are some, you know, there's some gaps and some things that are really worth and beats that I want to see hit, so that everything connects for me. And so like, unfortunately for I guess for Ryan and Louis, like that meant adding some pages,
Right.
and making the story a little bit bigger. But I think all in, like, you know, I finally read the lettered final version a couple of days ago, and I'm just like, yeah, this is a really powerful piece of work. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun to work with creators that are able to do that.
Well, you know, Ryan's, I love his newsletter because he's very honest about, you know, the week to week struggles. He's also, you know, really honest about the discipline, you know, the getting up as early as he gets up to do his writing at that time, and then, you know, going about his normal day job, and then, you know, just all the struggles that he goes through to, you know, to produce this stuff. It's pretty inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've been a long time subscriber to this, you know, one of the projects that he's been updating for years and years and years has been this one, and it's taken a lot of different twists and turns, and you know, Louis's got a family and has to take jobs and things like this, and so like it's been shelved for a while and come back to, and then remastered, and so like so much so that like we actually tried to take that, like, hey, they've been working on this for a long time, and turn that into a not just a strength but a product. And so like there's an additional process zine that Louis pulled together, just chronicling the creation of this project and the evolution and character designs and all sorts of stuff. And so it's kind of like a really cool little extra. That the great thing about Kickstarter is like, yeah, it turns out there's a lot of fans that would like a little bit extra, want a little bit more, really want to dive deep in this. And so I know, you know, Ryan is obviously an epic process junkie, and so this is really from the artist perspective as well. And so it's just a cool little extra product, and so it's been fun pulling it together and getting different kinds of things, and trying a few different things for this launch. You know, I guess I could open this up a little bit as a comment or a topic, but one of the things that I think has been weighing on a lot of creators' heads when they're doing their launches is just like how expensive international shipping has become, and just that feeling like even if every Kickstarter in the past, you're still getting a decent number of international backers, but you're like, as soon, you know, is there going to become a point where it's just like, it's too much is too much? And so for this campaign, one of the things that we decided to do was just give an upgrade to our international backers for free. And so like one of the things that we said is if you we're an international backer outside of the U.S. So somebody from Canada was like, "Do we count as international?" It's like, "Yep, pay for it." So we still do free U.S. shipping, but international shipping we do charge for. But we decided to make the artist edition sketch plate or signed art plate. So this will be signed by the writer and the artist, and then it'll also include some additional prints. And so this is like a little bit of a bundle. Any backer can add it for $20. Trade your books to signed. But we decided, since most international backers are going to be spending at least $20, if not more, we're just including that as an add-in for all international.
That's really interesting. I know that Orange Cone, their Pup Van Winkle, what their decision to work on it that I thought was interesting was basically international backers were bumped up one stacked tier. So if you backed the $12 tier, you got the $20 rewards. And if you backed the $20 tier, you got the $30 rewards. And I thought that was an interesting way to go about kind of, look, we understand how expensive this is, and it's very difficult, and it is something that's getting tougher. And I like the thought that I didn't think outside of the box on that, but I'm going to in the future if it continues. And prices don't seem to ever go down. They only seem to go one way. So I think I'm going to have to start thinking about something.
Yeah. And the other thing was, with both Ryan and Louis being in Australia, so it's an international team, you'd think we get a large number of Australians, and we sort of took it on the chin last time because we decided to offer either very discounted or even free Australian shipping, because Ryan volunteered to ship the Australian packages, but oddly enough, it cost a tremendous amount of money just to get the products to Ryan.
Right.
That
it ate it up anyway.
It ended up it was great for the Australian backers, but those pledges were closer to a wash than we would have liked them to be.
By the way, quick shout out to every backer in Australia and New Zealand. I have never had one of them complain about the insane shipping prices they have to pay. I'm not saying they never have. I'm saying it's never come to me. And it's like $49, $64. And it's just like, yep, that's the cost of doing business here.
Yeah. And not only that, they usually are among the top 4 or 5 countries that are supporting Kickstarters. So there's a lot of them. But there's also, it seems like there's a really strong comic creator contingent in Australia. So I know there's a bunch in our community, and so it's good to see that.
Right. Before we pivot to one of the other projects, what is one of the tiers that you really want to highlight in case somebody is new to either Ryan's work, Comics Tribe's work? What's the tier that you think you want to get some love to?
So we did just drop a new $37 digital tier that includes the digital deluxe version of this, and then a big, massive treasure trove of Ryan stuff.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
And so, in terms of best bang for your digital buck, that's probably it. You can also add Ryan's bundle. It's like 10 comics for $20. And some of those comics are actually full graphic novels. And so, really great steal of a deal on getting a bundle of Ryan stuff added to it. And we actually have a stretch goal coming up that will unlock a whole bunch of Comics Tribe #1s.
Does that include non-Comics Tribe, like Headspace and
Canvas? It includes a lot of the self-published work that Ryan controls 100% of, and then some of it that he has sort of shared ownership of as well.
Gotcha.
So that's a good one. And then I do want to also call out, just because I'm a sucker for just a brilliantly beautiful book on the shelves, is our book that gets you all 3 of the Comics Tribe die cut hardcovers. So that's Ryan's book, She, this new one for A Fistful of Pain, and then also the Wailing Blade collection. And that one is at 127. That's 3 just kick-ass hardcovers there.
Yeah, and each hardcover is almost $50 a piece, I'm going to assume, if not more.
Yeah.
Hey,
Awesome.
Tyler, does Louis handle the lettering on this as well as the art?
No, letter is actually Thomas Maurer.
Cool.
I know Ryan's worked with him before on things, and yeah, so he did a great job on that as well.
Cool. Awesome. Well, all right. Thank you for sharing that. Let's look at Legends of the Realm. Jack, I'm gonna take that out of the
That was awesome. That was infinity.
Sorry, guys, I took you into the Matrix.
Yeah, we were in the. I was going Inception, but yeah, either or. Let's look at Legends of the Realm. I hope give you a compliment too. Jack does this extraordinarily lovely thing. Every like 2-3 weeks, I'll just get a really nice, lovely kind of like I hope you're having a great day message from you. And I'm too lazy to do that to other people, but I want to say, Jack, it is so nice to get those, and thank you. It's like this wind behind my back when I wake up and they're there. So thank you. And why are you so nice and making all of us terrible bastards look bad?
So the affirmations started for me in about 2017. I was in the middle of a master's while trying to actually do this indie comics, indie writing thing. And when you're a grad student and an indie writer, you're just feeling completely down in the dumps all the time.
Everything's uphill.
Oh, yeah. And I just kept thinking to myself, gosh, like I would really love just a pick-me-up sometimes. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, hey, most indie writers and indie artists are like me in the sometimes you just need someone to say you're doing a good job. Mm-hmm. So I started doing that about once every couple of weeks, and it almost now comes to like once a week. I try to send out these affirmations to as many creators I know, like, hey, you're doing a great job. You actually are a really good person.
Which is inaccurate in my point, but I do appreciate it.
Put me on this, Jack. Can you put me on? I need some love.
Someday I'm going to get on this. You would be amazed, though, that I have had people say, like, hey, quit clogging up my messenger. Please stop sending me this stuff.
Okay, so that's not me. That's not me. I love it. It's nice. It's nice.
It is. It's one of those where it's like, do the sort of things that you want to happen more in your life, because if you want this, trust me, other people definitely want that. It's sort of like that for us in indie writing, or it's the Maya Angelou quote of write the book you always wanted to read. Tell the story you wish someone had told you when you were a kid. Here, it's the exact same thing. It's tell someone something you wish had been told to you. Because we don't get told we're awesome enough. We really don't. When anyone brings up the energy to just like talk with someone, it's okay, they have screwed up enough that I need to rouse myself from my slumber and tell them this is bad. But if you're doing a good job, no one wants to tell you that.
Yeah.
Unless they want a piece of you.
And every once in a while, and when I say every once in a while, it'll be 6 months, a year, 2 years, you'll get an email from somebody who has read a book of yours, and they'll send you, 4 or 5 paragraphs of what it means to them. And I'm not saying that I don't enjoy the financial support of a Kickstarter, but that email is a push so much harder than a $500 backer. And the $500 backer helps you pay for art, which is huge, but that soul fulfilling, like, oh, I'm not wasting my time because this one person sent me that email, is so extraordinary. And so I just, if anybody's watching or listening, if a book has meant something to you and you can reach out to one of the creators and just let them know, I cannot tell you how fulfilling it is to read. So I have one of those emails in my head right now as I'm telling the story, and it's just like, you could be in the darkest part wondering how much you're wasting. I've wasted my life on this, and you get that email and you're like, hell yeah, I'm doing 19 more issues. I'm going to finish this series for her. And that's great. So thank you very much for your affirmations, but we're here to talk about your project. So if you could share Legends of the Realm, let's get into it. How did this project first come together for you and your team?
Oh, so this actually started coming out in 2015. Believe it or not, I was just starting my hand in comics, trying to figure out about scripts. I've always been such a big fan of fantasy. This is very much my wheelhouse. And I came up with this concept for a mage whose story changes depending on who's telling it. It's not that like the facts change. It's not that people are lying, but what parts of his life we choose to focus on almost change whether he's a hero or a villain. And that story hung around with me for about 5 years or so until I found my artist, Evan Scale. And we started working together on a couple of other projects. Of course, Russell Nolte is going to get a nod because we did a piece for him in Cthulhu is Hard to Spell 2, Terrible Twos. And I showed him this script and he's like, this is the one I want to do with you. This is what's going on. And after that, we knew that we had set up this world and we wanted to tell Camridian's story in more deeper detail. And so that is where Set in Stone comes from. And that's sort of, I don't like calling it a hook because it feels hard on that, but they're legends. So each tale is always told by some narrator. It can be the same at some point, but you always know that there is someone who has some sort of agenda or bias who is telling the tale. They may be telling it completely truthfully, but you know that the bias is there. And gods, I love this cover.
Yeah.
So this is from Evan did the pencils, Rusty Gilligan did the inks, and Jay Morse did the colors. And this variant, which literally came in like 3 days ago from Amanda Dufresne.
Look at that moon.
Yeah, this is just I am a stone woman. Here is this bridge. Do you want to hear my tale? And I'm like, yes, please. Please tell me more. And this is the sort of thing that I just absolutely adore about comics. I read books all the time. I love movies and TV shows and video games, and they all have these wonderfully different aspects. But some of the best parts about comics is this collaborative effort that I have going on between myself and Evan, editor John Robinson, who's another old hand for Comics Launch, and Micah Myers. At every stage, it's building this new amazing story that's coming to life.
So let's talk about the team and how you guys work together on this. So when you write the script, and I'm assuming you're sending it to the artist. What type of communication do you guys have on the full plot of the issue, page to page, panel to panel? How much is you? How much is the artist? And how much is some symbiotic relationship between the two of you?
I'd say there's a lot of a symbiotic relationship. So Evan is great because he's bought in on the series. So he'll listen to me, chat him up on Facebook. I don't understand how, because he lives in Greece, and I'll be at this time of night, I'll be texting him going, "Can I tell you about this arc I have?" And he's like, "Sure." And then I do the time difference in my head, and I'm like, "Wait, why aren't you asleep? It's like 5 a.m." And he's like, "Oh no, it's just a early night for me." But that's from there. He's seeing it from those very rough inklings that I've got. He'll be seeing the entire process, but he won't really start until John and I have had a chance to sit down for like 3 hours to really finish up the script. And he gets a chance to just say, "Here, we need a little bit of changes. Here's what's going on." And John really makes sure that it's like, "Hey, can you make sure that this is in the story Bible so I can follow along?" Which I always forget to do. And then from there, it's Evan and I are working on characters, sketches, if we need new ones, and this. And he and I show each other pretty much everything from roughs to and thumbnails to pencils and inks and colors, that's what Evan does. He does the whole kit and caboodle.
That just above that panel where you've got the panel, a spot panel under the bridge is extraordinary. Was that in the script? Is that something that just came back from the artist's eye? That's gorgeous.
So much of the layout I want to give to Evan, and the reason is he'll come up with stuff like this. What Evan really wants is just enough structure. Like, all right, I need some panels. If something is really important to you, you need to let me know about that. But he gets to enjoy a lot of creative freedom because he has more than earned it. And that's another thing that I just love about this process. Like, seeing this come to life, like for myself as a writer, it's not really important that the comic comes exactly as I think it is. I see Evans in many respects as a co-writer because he's doing 60% of the work while I'm doing the funny scratchings on Google Drive.
Right.
And I mean, this is where we had Floated Dream, and this was page 3 of our first issue in the series. And I'm like, it's supposed to be a floating city. Go. And he's like, okay. here's what you get. I'm like, wow, yeah, that's what I wanted.
This kids, if you're listening at home, this is why writers don't work as hard as artists.
No, it's not. You are completely right. Because I can just say, hey, there's 100 people in this shot, and
Yeah.
there is a good percentage of artists who will be like, so you're going to get 10.
Yeah. Fair, which is fair.
Yes.
Well, this is Legends of the Realm 1 and 2. If everything works exactly as you want it, how long would this series run?
Forever.
Okay. All right.
So this first arc that we've got going on, like, what I've learned through all of my other Kickstarter projects is you want to give yourself off ramps, and that both let you continue onwards, but if you stop at this certain point, it's not going to ruin the story.
Right.
I've had artists who are like, hey, I'm gone. And so I'm just sitting there going, well, this story is gone.
Right.
I guess I got to move on from there.
I wish you would have given me that advice when I started. Where were you, Jack?
This is the advice I give to young writers all the time, where they're like, I have my masterpiece and I'm 15 years old. I'm like, great, shelve it. Work on it in the background, especially if you're working in comics. Unless you have a trust fund that you are just about to tap into, you don't have the capital for this.
Or you can draw it yourself. Then kind of you can sort of do whatever you want, but also don't. But
exactly. Like, I think another thing is learning from Tyler in this sort of regard. He's seen these big graphic novels where it's like, hey, all the art is done, or I've got this huge concept for like this 120-page book, and Tyler's looking at this going, so can you make like 4 30-page Kickstarters, especially as you're starting out, because it's going to be a lot harder to fund that 120-page book for a very first time.
Well, that brings up a really great point. Travis McIntyre of SourcePoint Press, he was saying that he actually prefers to hear a pitch earlier. He can deal with getting a script, or he can deal with getting a finished book, but he prefers hearing the pitch early, because if he can kind of work with the creative team to make it more marketable for SourcePoint, that's preferable. As only speaking for yourself, Tyler, if somebody that you not a Ryan, not a John Lee, not a, not your core group, but if somebody came to you and said, I've got an idea, do you prefer something that's really formed, or something that you can kind of be part of the creation process? And this is a pitch that you would want to publish.
Yeah. So it's kind of tough, because it's a little bit of a Goldilocks situation, where if it is so far down the line, but it's not like 100% the kind of thing that Comics Tribe does, then in some cases I'm like, you know what, like, just slapping our imprint on it, I don't know that it's going to make that much of a difference, or that it would be worth it to the creator for Comics Tribe to take what we need to take in terms of like out of the funding, to just, to pay for the basics of putting that, and having that be something that we're working on instead of something else,
right?
Versus what they could do on their own. So there is a point where if it's so far along, But we're also not like to this point, like we are not like there are some publishers like Scout, like their business model, I think, is in large part Kickstarter. Like, hey, fund it with Kickstarter, and then when you're ready to get your direct market distribution, or wider distribution elsewhere, yeah, come talk to us, right? And they're not so worried about like the whole piece of the pie. Like for us, like Kickstarter is still a significant portion of like like our launch. That like it's almost like that is 1A, and the direct market is just a secondary sort of side place to sell stuff. And then on the other end of it, like if somebody comes to me with like, hey, I've got an idea and here's a pitch and high concept, I can from that I can say, yeah, man, that sounds really cool, or I love that hook, or yeah, that sounds like how we did a contest for A Fistful of Pain, where we had people come up with fake movie titles, right? For fake kung fu movie titles, and it's one of the things I got to do. I got to pick a winner in a little bit, or I got to pick 3 finalists, and then
we can help you pick the winner. We can help you.
I can't. I put one in. I can't be
red Kevin's yet. I didn't scroll up that high, but in like the first 50 or something, there was one title that I'm like, shit, I would I want
this comic on that title.
And that's all it is. It's literally just a title, but that title is so good. That, like, if somebody came to me with a pitch for that title, I would be all over it. And I don't even like sight unseen, because like sometimes there are titles, right? Like that, like you hear
something is killing the children. I mean, it's done amazing. I mean, there's a lot right with that comic, but just that title is amazing.
It knocks it out of the park. But usually if someone comes to me with a really great idea, but that's all it is, then like maybe I can pair them with an artist that I know is coming up, and that's what, like, C is for Cthulhu is the book we've sold the most copies of. It is probably the biggest success, which is a children's book, but that was an artist came to me with an idea, or a writer came to me with the idea for the board book, and I paired him with an artist that I knew, and then said, all right, you take your writing expertise and your Lovecraft expertise, you take your art skills, and I'll do the Kickstarter and publishing thing, and it worked out.
And Empire has basically been born.
And and I have 1,000 tentacled things in my plush toys in my basement as a result, including one that's awesome. Like 6 feet tall and scares my wife.
Well, I think that's we can't underestimate that business model. Using Kickstarter as sort of like the first platform for being a new publishing model, because a lot of the publishers they can be having a hard time nowadays. And I think about your publishing model a lot. I'm like, yeah, actually, it's quite brilliant,
Well, yeah, I definitely grabbed, and then Emily was gone off of a comic shop shelf, and I was ecstatic to be able to get that. So it's nice to be able to get it one place or the other, and I appreciate that. The comic shop down here, it was Phil's comic shop down here in Margate, Florida, had it, and I was just like, oh, sweet.
Yeah. And like, even though like a big focus of the Kickstarter, like I do credit a lot of Comics Tribe's success on Kickstarter and outside of it is like the legitimacy that like getting the Wednesday release has done, and and also a lot of the creators that I've worked with, like a big part of their career, like so many of their career goals are tied up with being relevant on Wednesdays.
Well, Rich Duke has written a friggin' Superman story.
Yeah.
I mean, there's honestly, you can ride that coattail for. I know that you do plenty on your own, but Jesus Christ, you can write. He wrote a Superman story that was published by the Superman people. Now, HBO Max probably, cut it. That's probably doesn't exist anymore. But at one point, it was a thing.
it was a real thing.
No, I mean that's pretty amazing. I do want to make sure, Jack, is there a catch-up tier for Legends of the Realm 1 and 2? So if I missed, because I did miss the first campaign, could I get both issues with this one?
Absolutely, you can get both of those. You can even get that graphic novella Torn Soul as well. So we've got those in both digital and physical variants for like $15 and $30.
Okay.
To make sure that everyone gets a chance to catch up on this series. Another thing I wanted to add to that conversation, the great thing that Kickstarter and independent comics has done that I think gets really ignored all the time. We pay our artists not just on time, but sometimes a lot faster than the big guys. I feel like that's one of those things that does not get mentioned enough. And then you see these stories of Marvel just had another $1 billion, and someone who wrote the exact comic run got $5,000 and a special thanks in the movie. Or that's not coming out fast. You see this also with big publishers going, "Oh, you're going to get paid at this at the quarter." Even smaller press, for us smaller guys, especially for artists that are coming up, they're trying to make ends meet all the time. That like $130, $150 for a single page, that's gas and groceries money, and we pay them like that because we're in an indie comics scene and we try to look out for each other. And if we don't, we hear about it. That's one of the best things about this indie comics scene, is that camaraderie that so often just does not get talked about.
Yeah, I can say, I can now say Ringo nominated cartoonist Fellhound now, because shout out to Fellhound. Commander Rao is a Ringo nominated for best single issue of last year. So that is Explain Yourself Bump getting some Ringo nominations. But her joke was she and a bunch of artists just share the same $20 back and forth.
Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Will and I guarantee coming on this show is going to get you 2 backers. Hopefully we get you more, but we guarantee Will and I will get you 2 backers.
That's right.
Lowest or highest tier? Lowest or highest tier?
I mean, it could be $1 and it could be 125, but I gotta say, right now, stuff tight. It's gonna be closer to the $1.
Yeah.
I don't know about Will. He just started a new job. He might be throwing the Benjamins out.
Not yet, but
Yeah.
we're getting close. Maybe we'll see.
But no, yeah, it's. I love backing Kickstarters because I know what it feels like to get backing on Kickstarter, and I love being able to. I used to be a Wednesday warrior. I used to get $20 to $35 worth of books every week, and now I back Kickstarters. Sorry, local comic shop. I try to help you out when I can, but my comic money is at Kickstarter now, and it's great, and I love it. And I can't wait to get your books. And one of those books I can't wait to get is Baby Barbarian. So William, you've been very patient. Let's get into Baby Barbarian. And
I just before we do that, I would just like to reiterate what Jack said. There was my letter was posted on Twitter that somebody had been shining them on, you know what I mean, in terms of paying them. And I said, you know what, that's never going to happen with Own Goal Books, which is my my imprint. You know what I mean? And that this is true. I think that, you know, there's a degree of legitimacy, and, you know, like, but also like, I don't know, a community that is around this, and which doesn't necessarily exist at the highest levels, you know, I think, which is what Jack's kind of alluding to. So
I was a freelance writer. While you share that, I'll tell a story. I was a freelance writer for internet site for Maxim magazine, and the pay was incredible when it eventually got to me. So when 8 weeks of payment haven't come in for 2 months, it almost doesn't matter when it does, even though the payment's great, because you're so far behind.
Yeah.
So these big corporations that hold and hold and hold and hold, you know, it is rough. Yeah, when I'd finally get paid, I'd be able to hit my credit cards. But yeah, it's rough when you're doing freelance and these big corporations decide that they need to show that they made $1.3 billion this quarter, so they don't pay you the $1,800 they owe you, which is rough.
Hey, you know what, Kevin? I have my other screen on Safari, and it might take me a minute. Do you have the?
Do you want me to pull it up?
Yeah.
I can do it. All right.
Otherwise, I'm like, I didn't realize it was going to be an issue, and I'm like going through all permissions and stuff like that.
No, let's get to it.
Thank
All
you.
right.
I don't
That's
think
why I keep them open just in case.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
So I didn't have a good enough chance to really get through this, but I want to say that looking at your panels, I had a real Mad Magazine feel. There is so much going on in the back of the panels. Is this written, or is your artist just having a blast?
Okay, so I think that's really that's a good question, because it's sort of a combination, right? I'm highly scripted, and my artist appreciates that, because you know, it's like he's not interested necessarily in trying to you know, do all that work that is required. He's, you know, busy person, so he's not interested in doing all the work that is required to you know, like the Marvel method, for example. But at the same time, when he when I give him the script, he has full power to put everything into the background that he wants. And I really like that. So for example, in these are the panels from the first book here. And I took them out, but there's a panel, for example, where the guy's in the back of the wagon and he's like showing all of the different items, and he throws a toaster over his shoulder. And that was completely Igor's work, you know. And to be honest, this artist I'm working with, Igor Wolski, is a genius. And when we did the character design for the family, we have three principal family members. They're all bees. It's Brom, Brunhild, and Bjorn Berserk. And when I gave him the character descriptions over a year ago, geez, and he sent them back, I was like, oh my God, it's money, you know, it's completely money. Oh, so if we can stop here, Kevin. So one of the other things, yeah, maybe you can go down a little bit. But one of the things that we do is that I had a friend in Hawaii who was working with teaching kids how to use Unity. And so I was a part of Tyler's thing, you know, a year and a half ago. I was learning everything, and at that point I was like, you know what, man, I'm going to throw the kitchen sink into this. And so we worked on this video game version of Baby Barbarian. And this time round, we have a very simple, single, like Metroidvania style video game, which uses all the assets from the comic. So that's what that is showing right there, which is and what's really cool is like that, if you play that right there, this is Dylan Murayama, who is the designer. He helped to he pulled apart in Unity. He pulled all the panels apart, and the idea for this was to have the video game action be the interstitial action. You know how we were talking about you know, one of the brilliant things about comic books as a medium is that there's so many different ways you can tell the story, right?
Right.
You can have the panel, you can have the dialogue, and often sometimes the dialogue or the caption will create that what do you call that? Like that oh man, what is it called when you have the
I call it magic,
irony.
but I'm not very smart.
Dramatic irony,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Where like the character is saying one thing,
Mm-hmm.
but then the action is different. But
And it gives you a third meaning with the three.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the other thing about comics that is so brilliant is that you have the interstitial action, right? It's like the picture of the person with the axe held high, and then out the exterior where you have the and so what happened, right?
Right.
They do that in movies as well. But so this video game is this interstitial action when our protagonist Brahm, the little boy, is inside of his dungeon cell, and he's got to escape. And so it's like, well, we made this little video game where the person the backer can be Brahm figuring out how to escape from this dungeon cell.
Well, is there audio on the game, or
there is, but not right now. Not right now.
Okay.
This one here is just sort of it's an example of what we can do, but you can see it.
We also share this as a podcast, so I don't want to play it without audio and kind of have like 30 seconds of people, but everybody go to the page and you can look at the video game. So unfortunately, I'm not going to play it just because I don't want to mess up the podcast version.
But that right there, that picture shows some of the gameplay. For example.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
So,
but we don't have any.
Oh, that's yeah.
I mean, it's hey man, we're indie, so we're doing the best we can to make everything as
William,
as awesome.
That video game is so much better than any video game I've ever made. Will, have you ever made a video game that good?
What's a video game? I don't know. I barely make comics, man.
But I really am a fan of like cross-pollination,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think maybe if you were to go down, these are just digital rewards. And we had launched the first comic last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so
are both of these is that a variant cover on the left?
Yeah, so the main one is on the right, that's Igor Wolski did that, and then on the left is Fausto Ciodoni. He's an artist who I'm working with on another comic as well, like a sci-fi comic. Mm-hmm. But that's one we introduced a new character in the second comic, and that's a depiction of her. It's a young woman, and as she's also depicted in this picture by Travis Hansen, who's a pretty well-known artist, sort of in like the young adult fantasy world. That's a variant cover there.
Well, I saw that you put up like people who love Amulet and Bone, who are basically two. Bone is on my Mount Rushmore of comics, and Amulet is on my Mount Rushmore of young adult kids comics. So you've got me based on the type of book you're putting out there.
Awesome.
And like I said, I didn't get into it enough, but I loved the chaos in the background while the family was going through, and I loved your throne. As a Game of Thrones watcher, instead of swords in the throne, what do you have in your throne? I noticed
garden implements.
Yes.
So the conceit is that this guy, he's like, he makes a proclamation that there will forever be fun in his kingdom and there will be no work.
Right.
And so he gets all the garden implements and he makes a throne out of them. And no relation to Game of Thrones, of course.
No, not at all. It didn't even cross my mind. That's why I brought it up.
Can you go up a little bit, please?
Of course.
Yeah. So I mean, in that regarding that, this whole comic is very elusive. There's a lot of allusions. You know what I mean? Because it's like Gonzo fantasy, they call it, and Gonzo fantasy is essentially like all the tropes, none of the world building. You know what I mean? Right. I mean, and Jack, you're gonna understand that world building is an enormous aspect to fantasy, but at the same time, so many. So I was wondering, maybe you could stop here. So one of the things that I really had a lot of fun with in the last one was doing what I call cover photo bombs. And so these are where the backer can actually, it's a higher tier,
Right.
but the backer can send me a photo of either themselves or their child. And then I can talk to the artist about doing a barbarianized version of that person, putting it on the cover there, and then having it, and then sending it to them. I mean,
so is this going to be printed where they draw the person on, or are you going to print a single issue with like a drawing on the cover?
Yeah, it ends up being a single or a double issue depending. But so I mean, it's super selective, right? But there of course, because we're talking about children and stuff like that, there's a lot of concerns about identity, right?
Right.
So in fact, the last backer was like, I really want to do this, but just don't show this cover because these are children.
Right.
But the nice thing is there are so many options for printing. And I actually got the last campaign when we did this. Fausto also did this with our last campaign. The cover artist. And Kablam printing allows you to do pretty like individual comics for a reasonable amount. But that's why. But I also pay. We have to pay Fausto, and then if you could maybe go down, there's another one that I did. This time, there we go. This is the Brady Bunch cover.
Right.
And this one, you can only get this cover if you back this. So it's super exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So you can only get it if you barbarianize it and put your barbarian in the center. But so the nice thing about having all these different printing options is that you can go to Comic Impressions for the big runs.
Right.
But then Kablam, that's exactly what I did. I went to Kablam, and it's not like I'm you end up paying a little bit more for Kablam to print it off as an individual and to be honest, like I'm like, hey, you know what, if you print it off, if you back this already, I'm going to make 2 copies and just send it to you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because why not? You know what I mean? Give it to them. But so
you want to have that backup just in case, like, it's got a little dent or, but
exactly.
That's a cool idea.
And so that was kind of my most popular one so far. I don't have so many backers, but the one that people like is this, and it's sort of, I mean, it's marketing, right? Like,
right.
Sorry, but sorry, not sorry, they say, right?
Well, I mean, this show is basically marketing, so it's fair.
Yeah. But like this one is like, if you look up at the thing, it's 175, I think, for both of them,
right?
Versus 150 for just a Scott Oakley only. You know what I mean? So that's people like that. They're like, hey, I'll just invest into it. It's a one-time thing. Yeah, you're never going to get that again. You're going to have your child on the cover of a comic. It's never going to happen again. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't remember how I came up with it. I think it was like a comedian, Ken Jeong, he kept on photobombing everyone. And I was like, it would be fun. It would be great to have a cover bomb. You know what I mean? And just, why not? Because we can make our own comics,
Yeah, I think it's genius. That's great.
Oh, thank you. Well, I don't know if I'm genius, but I'll take it.
Hey, you know what? You take the compliments I give. The thing. There's no reason to be humble. We take the compliments we get in this world because we don't get it.
Can I add one more thing?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
So the funny thing was, we were talking about like it's so hard with the when you have Gonzo Fantasy, there's no world building. So when I was writing the comic, I was doing panels and I was like, okay, so they're going to go through this worm, then they're going to go through this chamber that has like bat bunnies in it. And the next chamber has like what is it? Moth rats. Or I mean, just like I do all these hybrid monsters, you know what I mean? Right. And then I was like, you know what? Igor referred me to a friend of his in Poland, who's a brilliant artist. I said, hey, Igor, you have any artists you really want to work with this time around? He goes, yeah, this guy. And so I looked at it, I was like, man, that's really cool. And he would do these landscapes. So I said, you know what? Let's do what do you call it? Like the cross profile. You know what I mean? Like where you cut it down the middle and you have all the things going through, like the different rooms. And so, but the funny thing was, so we did a beautiful, and this is one of the stretch goals, which is a cross section. That's the word. A cross section of Castle Slapdash and the dungeon. But the crazy thing is that I had to literally look at my own script and be like, Jesus, how am I going to tie all these rooms together? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it was just completely extemporaneous, you know. But it was he figured it out. He made a one-pager, and it's an absolutely beautiful cross-section map of Castle Slapdash and the dungeon beneath it, with other rooms that he put in. So again, you know, that's a great thing about working with these artists, right?
Mm-hmm.
You give them an inch and they take a mile. And
well, I think Jack had to take off because we do this show late, and I tell everybody if you got to go to bed or eat, depending on where you're on the world, go. And so, but he had said like his artist had bought in. So having an artist who's bought in and is adding and making it better on their own is extraordinary.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. So this, and the same question for you, if all goes well, how long will Baby Barbarian go?
Well, it was, you know, this is kind of cool because, you know, Tyler mentioned Scout Comics. So last year, the second day I was launching, Richard Rivera, who's I know has been on the show, he approached me because at that time he was in charge of the YA imprint for Scout Comics.
Right.
And I think he's become VP or something now, which is awesome.
He's co-publisher, but he still is running the Scoot imprint as well. Is what I believe I know.
So he approached me and he's like, "You want to go with me?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And he was like, "Well, we want to do a more serialized, like Asterix."
Mm-hmm.
But then that was the problem. Then I'd written this one already where in the castle they meet this other child who's been taken away from her family. And by the way, a lot of my stuff has a lot of themes that are current in our modern world. This is what fantasy and sci-fi is supposed to do, right?
Right.
It's supposed to interrogate our current world.
If you're smart, I'm not. I can't do it. But you do you.
You're saying me be smart and you can be you. Okay.
Yeah.
There's more of the boobs and dragons.
Yeah.
Geez, I lost my train. Oh, so they will be releasing this one, the 56 pager, and then after that, man, I would love to, you know, we have the video game thing going, and I'm actually working on a card game version with a Spanish game designer.
Cool.
And so, I mean, you know how it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Want to ride these things into the sunset as much as you can.
We want to give everybody as many options to enjoy your work as you can. You know,
There you go.
cheap, normal, expensive, and then here, there, everywhere. It's you're just trying to make sure that the property is there for people where they want it. So no, Baby Barbarian looks really fun, cute, and congratulations on getting in there with the Scoot version of Scout. It's a nice team that is doing the best they can, and you know, like I talk about, you know, Comics Tribe, Source Point Press, Scout. There's a lot of people working their butt off to get books in comic shops, and comic shops are doing the best they can in a weird economic environment. And sometimes that means your book gets on the shelf, and sometimes that means it doesn't.
Yeah.
And you know what? All you can do is keep working. So
can I just say thanks to Tyler for being that guide, as you mentioned early on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we always have to acknowledge the people that helped us get to where we're at. So
yeah, no, it's extraordinary to be part of the group. And if you're listening to this, and we're an hour and 20 minutes in, so I'm going to try to close it out so you guys aren't up too late because you have campaigns to run. You know, the indie community is really people really help each other in this, and it's extraordinary to be part of it. But you know, people like Tyler kind of showed the way, and you know, before we ever met at New York Comic Con, I had sent you a tweet like, well, you know, what do you think would work, and you gave me like 6 answers, and we're like, well, let's talk later, like, but you gave me the 6 answers before you said, hey, let's talk later. And I've always tried to emulate that if I can. And, Ryan was 3 rungs up the ladder from me when I reached out and talked to him, and he read Tart and sent me his books. And it's like,
That's
it's
awesome.
nice. It's nice to have the people who are a couple rungs up willing to at least give you a hand up. You can't expect the people 7 rungs up to help you, but 1 rung up, 2 rung up, it's nice to have it. And I try to do what I can to reach down one or 2 rungs because of what you guys have done.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean in Hollywood, what is it, like 7 degrees, 6 degrees, Kevin Bacon? But in comics, I think everybody's like literally like one, maybe 1.5 creators away from everyone else, and so it definitely is a community where, like, yes, if you judged, what comics is by just like hanging out on Twitter, where every month there's a new like controversy or drama or fight, you'd think, oh wow, half of comics is awful, but so much of the world is really actually pretty darn cool. So
yeah. All right, so at this point, Will and I are going to talk about the campaigns that are still running that have been on the show. You guys are welcome to hang and talk about it, and you are welcome to go to sleep. Many people choose to go to sleep, so we will appreciate it. But before you choose, why don't we do a 30-second elevator pitch on each project? William, you're in the zone, so let's do Baby Barbarian one more time.
I'm always in the zone, baby. So Baby Barbarian is a YA, or like a tween focused gonzo fantasy comic that focuses on family and is really meant to be just fun and edifying. Can I say that?
Certainly.
Wholesome and edifying are allowed.
Edifying.
Yes.
So anyways, yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Tyler, Fistful of Pain.
Yeah, Fistful of Pain. I mean, the core concept is that no one has the power to hurt you worse than someone in your own family.
Jesus Christ, that hurts.
And so, when you finally have the chance to get your comeuppance, what does that look like, and how does that go down? And because it's Ryan K. Lindsay, it's gonna hurt. You go in knowing that it's gonna be a punch in the gut, a shot to the heart, but it never goes down exactly how you think it's going to go down.
Right. No, I'm excited. That is a painful way to describe it, and I love it. All right, so Will, what do we have? I know that Kat and Phil, they
funded, yep,
funded successfully. Extraordinary works for The Haunting and The Dancer, but we're cheating a little bit. Mike Shea has not been on for his Miskatonic High. He's the greatest guy in the world, but he does not like to stay up late. So we're not able to have Miskatonic High on the show, but it's a great Lovecraftian story about high school students who get caught fighting the forces of all of Lovecraft's monsters. And this is a yearbook where you can back to put your face, your motto on it. It's just a really extraordinary idea. Also, Russell hasn't been on, but he's a friend of the show. And Ichabod Jones is but between Pixie Dust and Ichabod Jones, those are my 2 favorite Russell joints. Ichabod Jones is either an insane man killing a bunch of innocent people, or a hero saving us from a demon onslaught, and you're just gonna have to find out in the series.
Let's see. Next up, I think we have Pup Van Winkle, which is from, I think that's Orange Cone, isn't it?
Orange Cone. Heather Gibb. Travis is taking a backseat to his wife writing her first ever comic using the Rip Van Winkle legend, but putting a puppy in it, and just a real cute. I think it's appropriate for all ages. A dog wakes up 15 years after a nap in the forest to find out that the sheriff of the town has made dogs illegal, and the police force is cats and the sheriff, and it just sounds cute, adorable. The art is amazing, and Heather is great. So check out Pup Van Winkle.
And then we've got Dragon Girl Albino Warrior.
This is a massive superhero world that is being built one comic at a time. A young lady with I can't remember what her medical issue is right now, but an experimental surgery brings out something in her DNA, and she is the Dragon Girl, and the albino warrior is coming to try to lead her to fulfill a prophecy, and just a kind of a little bit of a, if you like a fistful of pain, it's kind of on that kung fu kaiju tip.
And there's one more that she's a friend of the show, but we've got the Mermaid's Coloring Book.
Oh yeah.
Which is which is in the kind of the same vein as her Witchtober book or Witches book, but yeah, Samantha Branch is a wonderful artist, and this is a lot of her art, and it's a theme where she's working with mermaids, and there's a safe for work version and a not safe for work version. So it's
and Samantha's biggest art influence is Michael Turner, and she, like you can see it. It's her work is gorgeous. The colors are vibrant, and it's definitely worth checking out. So that's what's live from people who've been on the show, and we'll do this for I think we'll have one day to talk about A Fistful of Pain, but we'll be able to talk about Baby Barbarian and Legends of the Realm, I think, for a couple shows. So I really appreciate you hanging out. It was a blast. And if you got another project, let us know, and we'd love to have you back on.
Yep.
Thanks
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Guys.
Oh,
That
was the
pleasure.
affirmation I needed. I didn't get the letter from Jack, but I got
I put them on blast. So Tyler and William and Will, hopefully you get it. But it's really nice. Every couple of weeks.
hey man, I tell you, it's you get lonely doing this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, see, now that I know that, I'll just take Jack's affirmation, send it to Will, and
there we go. And we'll
That was a really nice guy.
move it around. Yeah.
Nice.
It's like that $20 that just goes around, for
There you go.
Kickstarter.
I heard the same thing at the Comic Cons. It's the same thing. Everyone has the same $100, and they just pass them around.
Yeah, I've never had that $100. So thank you, everybody, and good night.